Hi everyone, Kath McDonald here, Eden Hope Hospital Community Health Nurse. Welcome back to Lockdown 5, Pilates Online. We have done this before, back last year, so we haven't been online for a while, so please forgive any technical issues. If there are technical issues, send through some messages to me afterwards telling me whether it's the sound or the picture. Pilates is a mat-based, well, my Pilates is a mat-based, no equipment needed. If you haven't got a mat, as long as your floor's not too hard, you can join in. You can also join in on a chair because a lot of the breathing and pelvic floor core control can be done in the chair. So what we want you to do is enjoy this next hour with me. If you have any injuries, please don't take responsibility for them. Don't injure yourself more. Pilates relies, anyone with acute back injuries, don't join in any of the movements, just do the breathing and pelvic floor control. So we are back in the Elsie Bennett Centre at Eden Hope Hospital. Thanks to Wimmera Healthcare Group Linen Services for our beautiful backdrop here. But we'll get started. But we're going to just refresh ourselves or bring attention to those that have never done Pilates to a couple of principles. And the first principle that anyone can do is that of breathing, which is the basis of Pilates. So if you're sitting or standing, I want you to place your hands on the sides of your rib cage. And what we want to do is inhale through the nose and exhale through the mouth. But as we inhale, we want to expand the sides and the backs, the lateral posterior part of our rib cage. We're not expanding our belly. So see if we can inhale into the sides of our chest and the back of our chest. And you should feel the rib cage expand. And then as you exhale, feel the rib cage come in as though you're almost contracting it together here at the front and contracting it down at the back. So a couple of more breaths. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale, nice, steady, long. Don't overexert on the inhale and exhale, just a nice deep breath. And if you just spend the next hour doing that, you will be cleansing your body, improving your circulation, your oxygen absorption, and you'll feel more relaxed, I hope. So our next thing we aim to do with our Pilates, and another basic thing, is to activate our core muscles to stabilise our pelvis and our core prior to doing any movements. So this is all achieved by lifting our pelvic floor and engaging our deep transverse abdominis muscle. So our pelvic floor is the muscle that stretches like a hammock from the front to the back, which holds up your bowel, your bladder and your uterus, all your abdominal organs. Your transverse abdominis is a deep interior abdominal muscle that comes from around the back between the hip bones. And so when I say contract between the hip bones, that band actually comes around from the back. So it will help anyone with back issues by practicing Pilates properly. These muscles, particularly pelvic floor, will deteriorate if it's not exercised over time, just by getting older, straining on the toilet, having babies, being overweight and having pressure of the weight of your abdominal organs and your excess weight on the hammock, excessive coughing, poor posture, weak butt muscles, and even high impact exercises. So a lot of elite athletes that are doing high impact running and jumping and weightlifting can have a weak and ineffective pelvic floor. So to activate our pelvic floor, we'll start standing, but we need to stand tall, have a neutral pelvis. So a neutral pelvis is not one where we have our hips tilted forward anteriorly, and not one where we take our hips back and do a Michael Jackson thrust. So what we're trying to do is line our ear, our shoulder and our hips up in a line. So slightly taking maybe the tailbone down in the direction of the floor and engaging these lower abdominals. So we'll put our hands on our tummy, take a deep breath in, and then draw up your pelvic floor. And by this I mean tighten the muscles either around your vagina, or if you're a bloke, imagine walking into the sea and those muscles contracting up naturally. So lifting up and inwards our muscles. Imagine that you have your pelvic floor muscles are on an elevator at the ground floor, and what we want to do as we contract and breathe out, we imagine that elevator slowly rising, 1 or 2 floors. We're not going to the 50th floor, it's too hard to work to sustain. And then we release it slowly back to our starting ground position. So just practice that, breathing in, and then just lifting and drawing in those muscles, and then gently exhaling. That's our pelvic floor. And then when we're drawing in our transverse abdominis, it's just gently contracting as though it's contracting between our hip bones. Not putting on a full-on brace as though we're going to be hitting the tummy. We're not drawing our belly button in, we're drawing in our lower abdominals. Now it might not feel like this is working straight away, but with practice. So let's start making an attempt to do those drawing in the pelvic floor and the transverse abdominis. We're just going to breathe in and breathe out, drawing in those pelvic floor and transverse abdominis and releasing. Let's go up on our toes, add a little bit of balance in here. If you have really weak prolapsed pelvic floor muscles, maybe you'll just spend the whole hour, maybe not the whole hour, you'll be exhausted, just working on trying to identify those muscles, just working them gently. Okay, releasing down. Let's inhale one arm up and over our head, stretching to our side body. Remembering as we inhale that we're filling up our chest, not our belly. And the other side. 2 more each side. So inhaling, and as we exhale, contracting those muscles. Inhale, release them gently. Exhale. Some people work the other way around. Inhale, they're contracting. Exhale, they're releasing. But generally when we exhale, we're doing, once we start some stronger movements, we're doing the more difficult part of the movement, and we want controlled abdominals as we do it. Okay, let's go and warm up our leg muscles. So let's bring our feet shoulder width apart or a little bit wider. We're going into a squat, so it'll depend on your knees how much you can do this, but we want a nice straight spine, shoulders down our back, and as we inhale, we're just going to sit our butt back behind us. We don't want to be leaning forward too much like this, so butt backwards, tummies pulled in, transverse abdominis switched on, and then we're coming up. Down. Don't let the knees roll out, roll in, so we're not rolling out like this. We're just trying to keep them in a nice straight line over our big and second toe. So inhaling as we go down. As we exhale, pull up that pelvic floor, pull in the belly, straighten up. Couple more. Hair and makeup didn't turn up today, so I'll just pop my hair back in a tie. You might not go down as far as I, or you might go down until your thighs are parallel with the floor, depending on your knees, but even a little bit, activating that pelvic floor as you come up. Okay, let's go come up. Take our feet wide now, toes turned down. Our knees are going to track in the direction of our big and second toe. We're going to bring our hands up into a cactus shape. We're going to inhale our way down. As we exhale, we're going to just tilt to the side. Inhale back to centre, exhale to the side. Inhale back to centre, exhale. So mobilising our spine laterally now. Something we don't do very often, it might feel quite stiff. You can do this in a chair. Whoops. Make sure you're pushing through all four corners of your feet or you'll be like me and wobble. Okay, all coming back to centre. Now we're just going to inhale and twist around to the back. Now we want a long spine, we want this tummy switched on, and we're going to twist just to where you can and back to centre. Getting some rotation in our spine now. Make sure your knees aren't rolling in. Bit hard to feel as though you're contracting the pelvic floor in this position, but just make sure that lower belly's just gently pulled in, supporting the lower spine. A lot of our injuries done when we have a bent spine and we twist. A lot of our back injuries. So we're bent and we twist. I'm not going to do it, that wouldn't be wise. But a lot of people say they hurt their back. Okay, back to centre. Straighten the knees and arms down. A lot of people say they hurt their back. What were you doing? Oh, I just bent over to grab something and they've twisted at the same time. Alright, we're going to the front of our mat, one end of our mat now. It doesn't matter whether it's the top or the bottom. We're going to do some roll downs. So again, standing tall, feeling all four corners of our feet. We're going to pull our shoulders back and down, neutral pelvis. So not anterior tilt, which I tend to do, draw the hips back, as though we've almost got a little elastic between our rib cage and our hips, keeping it nice and just gently taut. Then we're going to inhale, prepare, exhale, pull up that pelvic floor, pull in the lower belly and then roll down, one vertebra at a time. So head. Those that regularly do Pilates can get straight into there and not listen to the explanations. At the base, let's inhale, and as we exhale, we're going to draw our belly in and try and roll up, stacking those vertebrae one at a time, almost like we're stacking up Lego in South Australia. Okay, rolling down. We're going to do 6 of these roll downs. You should be able to really feel yourself pulling in that belly. And even when you're over, you're almost pulling that belly button in up under that rib cage. Prepare with your breath. Move with the exhalation, remembering to draw in. Pilates is slow and steady. It's all about engaging the core before we make the movement and making the movements full of quality, not quantity. Sometimes we do quantity as well, but not tonight so much. Sometimes the slower we do it, the harder it is, because we actually have to concentrate on the actual every part of the process. Concentration is one of the principles of Pilates. Okay, we'll roll down now and we'll stay rolled over. Now your legs may not be straight in this position. You might have a lower back issue where you feel much more comfortable with your knees bent and your spine straight. But if you can start to straighten them and if you're comfortable fully flexed over, just let yourself completely relax here, feeling the stretch in the back of the legs. We'll just take a few nice big deep breaths into our lungs. Really feeling the side body and the back expand as we fill up. to tighten that belly and walk the hands out slowly until we're in downward dog or a triangle position. Feet are about hip width apart or wider if it feels more comfortable. We're pushing away from our hands into our heels, our tailbone up towards the sky, and the backs of our thighs going towards the back of your mat. Try and keep your shoulder blades down towards, up towards your bottom, away from your ears. Again, your legs might be quite bent if you're tight in the hamstrings or lower back. You can start to pedal the feet up and down, releasing one leg and pushing the other heel towards the floor. Or while we're doing this, I'm still doing my nice deep breaths and pulling in my lower belly, even my belly button up towards the roof in this case. Again, quite difficult in a position like this to feel as though you're drawing the pelvic floor in. What we're going to do now is bring our body weight forward so that our shoulders are over our wrists into what we call a plank. Now this might be way too much. Some people might want to straight away drop their knees to the floor. But what we want to do is make sure those shoulders are over the wrists and the hands rather than pushing back like so. If it's too much to have the body at such an angle, we can bring our knees forward so we're in more of a box shape. Some people that have wrist issues might decide to use fists for wrists, and you can do that at any stage. Okay, so I'm going back from my modified plank to my full plank. I'm going to push my butt back up in the air into down dog. And then I'm going to come up on my toes and come forward into that plank again. Don't let the belly drop like a banana. Keep the transverse abdominis, between the hip bones, pulled up, back into down dog. Forward into plank, up on the toes, come forward. You might drop your knees again, like I said. And then back up into down dog. One more time, into our full plank. Or our modified plank with our knees down. We're just going to hold here for 3 breaths. Butt's not too high, butt's not hanging low, but just right. So breathe away. Okay, dropping our knees if they're not there already, uncurl the toes. Going to lower our chest to the floor, but as we lower down, we're taking the chest down first, not the belly. Our elbows are coming in to graze the side of our chest. You'll feel it in the back of your upper arms. Good job. Okay, from here, we're going to bring our fingertips just outside, just at the top and outside of your mat. Heads facing down. We're going to inhale, tighten that pelvic floor and transverse abdominis, and just raise our chest as we inhale. Exhale, just lower down. Now, depending on the mobility in your lower back, how high you go, inhale, let's come up. Exhale, lower down. Inhale up. Exhale down. Inhale up. Exhale down. One more. And relax. Okay, let's come up onto all fours, our knees and our hands. This time we want to make a nice box shape. We want a straight, long spine. We don't want to let our head hang forward, and we don't want to lift our chin up so that we're shortening the back of the neck. We want a long spine from the crown of our head to our tailbone. We want to pull our pelvic floor in and draw up our lower belly. Then we are going to take one leg out behind us. Now while we do that, we want to keep our hips level. We don't want to lift that hip up. We want to keep even pressure through our arms. So it's quite balancing. Push down in the top of the other foot. And then if you think you can take the opposite arm out for spinal balance. You might feel shakes, that's quite normal. And you might fall and wobble. Just try not to fall and hurt yourself. We're trying to keep our shoulders square, so not tilting our shoulders either. So it's quite a lot of concentration on different parts of the body for what looks like quite a simple exercise. Don't forget to breathe. Okay, let's release that front hand down and then place our knee down. We're just going to sit our tailbone back towards our heels and rest down in child's pose. So you can come back to this pose at any stage and just concentrate on some nice breaths. And for those that are ready, we'll come up now and work on the other leg. So strong straight spine, pull in our pelvic floor and our transverse abdominis and extend our other leg. That might be it for you. Option 2, to take the opposite arm out. Try not to let that leg drop low, keep it up. I think I'm on a wobble board, my arm is shaking a lot. And release the hand down and the leg. Great stuff. Alright. Hope we're all going well there. What we're going to do now is some tricep push-ups, and this is similar to what we did a moment ago as we lowered ourselves from the modified plank. If you're quite strong, Trevor, if you're doing this from your toes, but it can, 3 options. We can be in our box shape, and we're lowering our chest to the floor, but we also include a push-up. So we're working the backs of these arms, our tricep muscle. Now that doesn't get used a lot, so it's not as strong as it could be in a lot of people. That's why we're strengthening it now. So we can be in our box shape, going down. You might only go a couple of inches because this feels quite unnatural if you haven't done it before. You might come out to your modified plank. Nice straight spine. Elbows come in, graze the ribs, push up. Notice my shoulders are right above my hands. I'm not like this. Those that know how to do these, get straight into them. Third option, toes. I'm not even going to show you because I will just go plop. Okay, so let's do a few more. 1. Some of you might have already done about 10 while I've been talking. Shoulder blades are down our back. I'm not letting my belly sag. It's not this. It's not a pelvic thrust. It's an arm and chest exercise. And that's enough for me. Sitting back in child's pose. Some nice deep restorative breaths. And then we'll come up. Okay, we'll come up only to come down again, all the way down onto our tummy. This time, instead of having our fingertips out in front, we're going to bring our hands right down near the sides of our rib cage. We're going to pull our shoulders back and down, elbows tucked into the chest. Head facing down. We're going to inhale, feet are pointed and about hip width apart. They can go wider if your lower back's a little bit touchy. We're going to inhale, lift our head and chest. You can push a bit through the hands. Some people are about to come right up high with straight arms. Others might only be going a couple of inches off the mat. And we're going to lower down. We're going to do 3 of these. Remember, elbows back and down. Inhale, nice big breath in. Exhale, lower down. Keeping that lower TA, I'll say TA muscle rather than transverse abdominis, it's a mouthful. Keeping it engaged. On the next one, we're going to stay up. So inhale our way up. Exhale, look over your shoulder. See if you can glance back maybe at your heels behind you. Come back to centre with the head and look over the other side. Back to centre, lower down. One more, inhale up, look over the shoulder, back to centre, exhale over the other shoulder, back to centre and down. Great stuff. Okay, we're going to push ourselves up in whatever fashion and come over onto our bottoms. We'll just sit with our legs as wide as is comfortable. We don't have to sit as tall as we can. Some people might find this really hard to do with legs straight. You might need your legs bent, that's fine, or you might prop yourself up on a cushion or two just to allow the spine to be a little bit straighter. All we're going to do now is pop our fingers near our ears. Inhale, sit as tall as we can, and then we're just going to twist like we did when we were standing. One way, back to centre, and the other way. Back to centre, and keep going like this. It's quite amazing how much work you can do just by sitting tall, how much the body has to work. So we're sitting tall, we've got our feet engaged, so we've got our toes pointing to the roof, our thigh muscles are working, our shoulders are back and down, our tummy muscles are in, our pelvic floor's in, and then we're adding in a rotation. So it might seem quite simple, but there's a lot of action going on. Okay, come back to centre, and now we're just going to do that lateral bend. So just working our oblique tummy muscles, which are a little bit, not quite as deep as the transverse abdominis, but these are the muscles that allow us to do the rotation and the side bends. Back to centre, and over to the other side. 2 more each side. Make sure we're keeping that spine as long as we can, so we're in a nice arc rather than a crunched over spine. Okay, let's come down. Alright, we're going to sit on our bottom with our legs bent now. So trying to keep our feet about hip width apart. Don't let the knees roll out. Try and keep that ankles, knees and hip bones all in line, and then we want to sit up nice and tall again. Nice straight spine, shoulders down and back, not popping out our ribs. Keep our ribs and our hip bones engaged towards each other. Then what we're going to do is inhale deeply, and then as we exhale we're going to pull in the pelvic floor and the transverse abdominis and roll back. Now you might only go a little way and feel like you're already working. We don't want to be pushing out here, we want to be drawing in. So if you feel like as soon as you roll back, you're pushing your pelvic floor out, stop. Only go as far as you can. Inhale back, exhale, drawing again, and roll up, sit tall. Keep that going. Inhale, prepare, exhale, roll. Inhale back here. Exhale, come up and sit tall. Now you can stay with your hands hanging onto your knees. You might have your hands at the side of the knees, or you might have your hands not hanging onto the knees at all. It will be a little bit harder, you just haven't got that security of hanging on. But there's no right or wrong, there's just what your body's ready for. We'll do 2 more. Okay. You might choose, if you feel quite fatigued here in these hip flexors and your lower belly, just have a little rest for a moment, hanging over your knees. Or you might continue to roll back, hold there, open the arms out, and then twist. Exhale, twist to one side. Inhale, back to centre. Exhale, twist to the other side. Remember, shoulders down and back. Centre, twist. Centre, twist. Centre, twist. Centre, twist. Centre. Bring the hands down. Inhale. Exhale, come up. Straight spine. And then everybody hand over their knees. Okay, we're going into rolling like a ball. Those that haven't done it before, those that know how to do it, go straight into it. Those that haven't done it before, it sometimes can be a bit challenging and you might feel a bit like you're doing the dead ant. But we are grabbing our feet and drawing them into our butt as close as possible. Knees to chest, nose to knees, tucked in like a little ball. And then we're lifting our toes up and finding a balancing point. Now this might be enough for you, just staying here in a ball shape, drawing that lower belly in, not just squashing it in, but drawing it in internally. Or you can challenge yourself and as you inhale, you roll back. As you exhale, you come up and find your balancing point. Inhale back, exhale up. Now you might find you go back and don't let go of the knees, keep them here, tuck the chin in, don't let the head flop back, you'll have neck issues, and you might need to give yourself a bit of a roll to come up. So a couple more rolling like a ball. And then we'll all bring ourselves up onto our seat and extend our legs in front of us. Again, sitting tall, but this time we're bringing our feet together, our heels together, and we are wrapping our thighs around towards our butt, what we call the Pilates Stance. A bit like a dancing feet happens. The feet turn out, the thighs are wrapping under, we're sitting high up on our cheeks and almost pulling our butt cheeks together slightly. Inhale, raise the hands up in front of us. Exhale, drawing that pelvic floor, drawing your TA, and slowly roll back. Slowly as you can, shoulders are down our back, lowering ourselves down until we're flat on the floor. Lovely. All right, let's just have another go at finding our pelvic floor here because it's a little easier on our back without the pressure of our tummy organs weighing it down. So knees bent. First of all, we're going to find neutral pelvis. We found neutral pelvis standing up where we didn't tip our hips forward or back. Same here. Neutral pelvis is when pop your heels of your hands on your hip bones and your fingertips on your pubic bone. Now, if we take our lower back to the floor, our heels go down towards the floor. If we've got like a dinner plate, all the food would slide off towards our belly button. Come back where the plate is flat and then lift the back up, the lower back. And all our food on our dinner plate that's sitting on our hands would now slide off between our legs. So come back so that our heels and fingertips, which are the dinner plate, is flat. Now that's a neutral pelvis. It should give you that natural curve in your lower back. So some people will be able to put a whole hand under there. Some people it might not be quite such a gap, but that is a neutral pelvis. What we're going to do then is practice drawing our pelvic floor in, like I explained before. A guy might be going into a cold ocean and feel that contraction upwards. Female, draw in the inner walls towards, in this case, up towards your belly button. So drawing inwards and upwards. Now see if you can just gently, and you can put your fingertips about an inch in from your hip bones, draw down the muscle between your hip bones. And you may or may not feel a slight contraction of that muscle. If you press the fingertips in and draw in, you feel that's your TA muscle. So we want to contract that as though we're contracting our hip bones together. Like putting on a corset, but we don't want that sort of intensity because you can't maintain that. Okay, when our feet on the floor for any exercise, we're happy to keep that neutral pelvis with that little bit of a gap under our lower back. As soon as that we bring particularly both legs in the air, it might be safer for your back to lower the lower back towards the floor a little bit. So let's try that. Lower back to the floor, one leg up, other leg up, still switching on these muscles. Because sometimes if we bring both legs up and we haven't lowered that back to the floor, we might find we're arching and that could be hurting our back. All right, let's just keep our feet on the floor. Unless you've been coming to Pilates, you can go into Tabletop, you'll know what it means. Bring our fingertips to our ears. Neutral pelvis. So switch on the pelvic floor, draw in the band between the hips. Inhale. As you exhale, shoulder blades are down your back. I want you to lift your chin and your shoulder blades, slide your ribs towards your hips while flattening out that belly. Inhale, lower back. Exhale, slide the ribs towards the hips. Exhale, lower back. Now, keep going like that, but think about it. If you're coming up and you can feel that you're pushing out your pelvic floor between your legs, don't come up as far or don't come up at all. The first thing we need to engage is our pelvic floor and then the band between our hips. There's no point coming up, blowing the belly up into a balloon and blowing the balloon out between our legs. We're only damaging our pelvic floor. So inhale, prepare. Exhale, pelvic floor in. Transverse abdominis down. So we shouldn't be able to see a bulging belly. If we can, we're going either up too high, so you might only be lifting your chin, but really focusing on, you'll feel it working. There's no prizes for ruining your pelvic floor by coming up higher than anyone else. Let's do two more. Some people might feel like this strains their neck, and that's probably because they're using their neck muscles to draw themselves up rather than focusing on just tucking the chin, drawing the ribs to hips. Okay, let's go down. Alright, bringing our heels into as close to our butt as we can, we're going to go into a bridge. So heels hip width apart, knees hip width apart, not falling out, not falling in. Fingertips down towards our heels, so our shoulders are down our back, but don't pop our ribs up. Keep our ribs flat, down towards our hip bones. Okay, inhale, tilt the pelvis, this time pubic bone to the roof, lower back to the floor, and then using your leg muscles, push up so we come up into a bridge. Working your leg muscles, your butt muscles will be engaged. You're drawing in your core muscles in your belly and your pelvic floor. We're not popping up so much that our lower rib cage is popping up. We're still keeping that slight contraction feeling of ribs towards hips. Don't, once you're up here, let the knees fall out. Keep a bit of pressure under that big toe and in the heels. We're just going to hold here in the bridge, breathing away. After your next inhalation, we're going to slowly lower down from the top of the spine, trying to get every single vertebra, 24 of them, to lay down one at a time on the mat. So we're contracting this belly as we come down so that our lower spine is the last thing to hit. And then we straighten up, come back into our neutral pelvis where our dinner plate's flat. Okay, again, tilt and peel. Tilt the pelvis, belly button towards the mat, drawing in the pelvic floor and the TA, and then push up. And then exhale your way down again. It's a really good exercise, just to really feel everything working in this trunk. And then we can do another 3 in your own time, tilting and peeling up, and then laying the spine back down. Inhale, prepare, exhale up, inhale at the top, exhale down. Okay, we're going to move from 2 feet on the ground to 2 feet in the air. So this is where, as I said, we need to take our lower back to the floor to protect our back, unless you've got very good core and you know you can maintain neutral pelvis. So what we're going to do is imprint our spine. So lower back towards the floor, still contracting our pelvic floor and our TA. Lift one leg up so that the knees at right angles, and our lower leg is parallel to the floor. Keep engaged in this core and bring our other leg up. This is what we call tabletop. Now we can take our arms out to the side, join our knees and ankles together. Now there's a tendency here to let the lower back come off the floor and the ribs pop up. Draw the ribs down. Draw the ribs towards the hip bones. From here, we're going to inhale our knees over to one side. Now I've gone out on about a 45, but you might not go that far. What we want to do is maintain this control for our middle. Exhale, come back to centre. Inhale to the other side. Shoulders are staying on the ground, ribs are engaged towards the hips. Back to centre. Inhale to one side. This is called the pendulum. Exhale back to centre. We're not only working now our transverse abdominis, we're also trying, with the rotation, we're working our oblique muscles, another layer of tummy muscles that do our rotation. Keep going like this. I've got cramp in a strange spot. So 2 more to each side. And when you're finished, lower your legs down to the mat. Alright, we're going into hundreds now, so anyone that knows how to do hundreds or is a Pilates person, goes straight into your hundreds. I'm going to show the 4 different options. So with Pilates, with hundreds, we can choose the option with our feet remaining on the ground. We're going to tuck our chin towards our chest, a bit like we did the abdominal curl, ribs to hips, reaching the arms forward, a slight bend in the arms, but really strong through the shoulders. Shoulders are down our back, we're not curled up. And we're just going to pulse our arms. Now the movement's coming from our shoulders, not our floppy elbows and wrists. So strong arms. Option 1, feet on the floor. Option 2, feet into tabletop. Same action, imprint the spine into tabletop. Again, head up, pulse. Option 3, feet can go towards the roof. Option 4, you can lower the legs to wherever. The lower, the more work's happening here through the abdomen. Now, there is also a choice with your head. If you've got neck issues, holding the head up like this may be a problem. You could leave it on the ground, or you could alternate one arm resting the head in the other hand every beat of 5 or 10. So let's get started for those that haven't started. I'm going into tabletop, so imprint the pelvis, one leg up, other leg up, head up, arms are reaching. We breathe in for 5 and out for 5. In for 5, out for 5. And we do up to 100. Those that started before my explanations might be doing 200. So strong arms, shoulders down the back, ribs to hips. Strong through the legs, pull in the pelvic floor and the transverse abdominis. I think that's got me at about 60. So we'll do 4 more deep breaths. Okay, bring the arms to a still, lay the head gently down, bring the knees to the chest, just rock from side to side, massaging that lower back. And then bring the knees to stillness and just take your head to one side, centre, and then the other side, and centre. Okay, resting the legs down. Straighten out one leg and then bring the other knee to the chest, hang on behind the knee. Then we're going to straighten that top leg. The top leg toes, I want you to point down towards your nose. Now some people's leg will be bent, they won't be able to straighten it completely. If you wish, you can bring your head off the mat. If it's better, leave it down. And then we're going to take the other leg, straight leg off the floor, parallel to the floor but off the floor. Pulling the pelvic floor and the transverse abdominis, give a gentle 1, 2 of the top leg towards you, and then we're going to swap. Other leg comes up, flex foot, 1, 2, and swap. The bottom leg's pointed, the top leg toe goes towards your nose. So one's flexed, one's pointed, and they're alternating. 1, 2, 1, 2. Like I said, your head could be towards the mat, still engaging the core muscles. Bringing both knees in towards the chest and just circling with the knees. Now we're getting a real massage around lower back and middle back. Reverse the direction. Okie doke. Time is slipping away, we're having so much fun. Let's go on to our side for some side work with our legs. The important thing when we lay on our side, now I've got my head resting in my hand, but I can also lay it down on my lower arm. what I want us to do, I have my knees bent in front of me and my ankles are now in line with my hips and shoulders. But what I don't want to do is collapse through the waist. So I'm going to put my hand on my top hip and lengthen it away from my rib cage, and at the same time lengthen my bottom waist. So I feel like I'm lengthening both sides of my waist. I almost could have a gap under my waist here that I could slip a hand through. Now this top hip needs to be stacked above the bottom hip. So I'm actually going to feel like I roll forward slightly. If I lean back a bit, it's actually a fair way back behind my bottom hip. So I'm going to roll slightly forward, lengthen both sides of the waist. Heels are stuck together, and then I'm just going to open my knee a little bit. This is called the clam, and then close it again. Now this is purely working my glute muscles here. I don't want anything else to work. I'm not trying to open it right up so that then I start using all these muscles to hold myself. Pop your hand, keep that hip away, pop your hand on your butt and just open that knee and you'll feel that butt muscle engage, muscles. Drawing in the transverse abdominis, still keeping that rib to hip feeling. Very simple exercise, but engaging specifically these butt muscles. Okay. We're going to leave the bottom leg exactly where it is. We're going to leave our waist long and we're going to straighten our top leg out with our foot flexed. Our foot flexed is where our toes are drawing back towards us. We're not pointing them away. Again, when you do that, don't roll backwards. Keep this top hip forward over the bottom hip. So imagine there's a straight line going through directly above the bottom hip. We're going to slightly turn our heel upwards of that top leg and we're just going to lift and lower. Now I'm only probably going 4 to 6 inches. I'm trying to still keep my belly switched on. My ribs aren't popping out. Bring that leg down hip height. So here's my hip, about that height, and then we're just going to kick it forward. 1, 2, point the toe, swing it behind. Now you might have the hand in front of you for a bit of balance here. Kick. Now the only movement in this body should be coming from this hip joint, and also I'm flexing and pointing my toe. But there shouldn't be any swaying or movement through the trunk. That's why I've got all these abdominals engaged, working, this core engaged. I think we might go over time tonight, first session. Too much talking at the start, but just going through a few of the basics, ready for, well, maybe another session next week. Okay, we're going to kick this front leg forward and then we're going to place it on the mat with our knee off the ground and straighten our bottom leg. Now I have just collapsed through the waist, so I'm going to push this top hip away again, lengthen through both sides of the waist and lift with my inner thigh and my lower leg. And release. We're just going to swing around now and even up our sides before we have a stretch. So taking yourself to lie on the other side, we'll go straight into our clams, knees forward, hips and ankles and shoulders in line, lengthen the waist, feet on the floor and open our clam. Again, the hand can come forward for a bit of balance. I tend to put it there just to make sure I'm not collapsing through that waist. Okay, bottom leg stayed bent, top leg extended, hips stacked, heel slightly turned up and foot flexed, and we're just lifting and lowering. Keeping our waist long. Okay, bring the leg back hip height, kick forward, sweep behind. Kick forward, foot flexed, point and sweep backwards. Okay, bring the leg forward, lower it to the floor, lengthen the waist, lengthen the bottom leg and lift. Pointed foot on the bottom leg, lifting with that inner thigh. And lower down. Okay, we're going to take ourselves onto our back for a quick stretch, which is not ideal, so feel free to do some more stretches after this video ends. But we've got one leg bent, one leg in the air. We're going to hang on behind that leg in the air and point the toes. And then we're going to flex the foot, so push the heel up, toes down. Feel the stretch in the back of the leg behind the knee. Point the toes, flex the foot, point the toes, flex the foot. Circle the ankle, one way and then the other. And then flex the foot so the toes are pointed towards you, and work your hands up the leg, which is as straight as it is able to be. It might still have a bend, and bring it towards you. So you're feeling the stretch in the back of the leg. Doesn't matter how far you go, the whole idea is that you can feel the stretch. Some people will have that leg down on their nose, some people will still be out here and they'll still feel the stretch. And release that foot down. Other leg in the air. Point and flex. Circle the ankle. And then flex the foot and walk your hands up the leg to feel the stretch in the back of the leg. I will upload this video onto Eden Hope Hospital's YouTube channel, so if you Google Eden Hope Hospital YouTube, that's an easy way to find this video to come back. If you haven't been able to do much of it because you can't get down on the floor, you could do it on a bed. And relax that leg down. We'll come up to a seated position. I'll just have a little stretch. Legs out in front or wherever they're comfortable, and just taking one arm up and over the head. So you can come back and repeat. You could do Pilates every day if you felt like it, or 2 or 3 times a week. If you'd like to join me tomorrow night at 4 o'clock, we'll do some active yoga or hatha yoga, which is a mixture of a flowing yoga poses and some strength building yoga poses. So that's going to be live at 4 tomorrow. But if you would like to go to Even Hope Hospital's YouTube channel, you can look at some past videos or repeat this one whenever you want. Hope you enjoyed the session. There was a lot of talking and explanations tonight just to refresh us all. But until I see you again, maybe tomorrow at 4, have a nice night. Thank you.